Your vagal tone is a predictor for your well-being throughout the course of your life. Your vagal tone is determining things for you every day, like your digestive system is deeply connected to and governed by your vagal tone. It's also registering things like your homeostasis and the movement away from your homeostasis. But today what I want to do is cover a few concepts of how you can raise your vagal tone, and you can do it with it being socially graceful. Today's medical and mental health world, we're hearing a lot about vagal tone, vagal tone, vagal tone. It's really essential to our well-being. Your vagal tone is a predictor for your well-being throughout the course of your life, and you're born with a baseline vagal tone, which can be increased and it can also be decreased. Some things that decrease our vagal tone include trauma or traumatic events, occasionally things like medical events, such as having a surgery or experiencing something in your whole system where your immune, digestive, and endocrine function gets disrupted, and then your vagal tone is kind of going down. Vagal tone also goes down when we feel unsupported or disconnected, or let's say we have a medical event and the kind of response we get from people isn't as nourishing or connected or tuned in as we would have wanted. Now we have a compounded experience of our vagal tone going down. Vagal tone can be increased by things like social connection, empathy, turning on the social engagement networks and feeling warmly received by people. It can also be increased by things like swallowing, singing, gargling, using a tongue depressor to turn on vagal tone, to get it to come back into its function. Your vagal tone is determining things for you every day, like your digestive system is deeply connected to and governed by your vagal tone. It's also registering things like your homeostasis and the movement away from your homeostasis. And if you're here in Hunger, Hope, and Healing, you've been listening to any of the work that we do here, you know that coming back to homeostasis is something that can feel really hard won, particularly if you've had an issue with food or digestion or any number of the spectrum of food-related disorders, including anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, stress eating, compulsive eating, sugar addiction, and so on. Our vagal tone has likely been adversely affected. The difficulty is it might feel like some of those things that we're doing are solutions for not having high vagal tone. We may not have said it to ourselves that way. We might not be saying, my vagal tone is off, so let me engage in my bulimia or sugar binging. So it's not like we have a cognitive and conscious pathway to that decision. We sought out solutions when we were very young, and we internalized those solutions, and if they worked, we kept doing them. We may have sought out these solutions as responses to an environment that wasn't supporting our vagal tone or may have been actively interrupting our vagal tone. And therefore, the solution that worked is one that we kept doing. The difficulty is it's been slowly degrading your vagal tone over time. Even though in the immediacy of binging, you feel like, okay, I'm more calm, I'm getting myself soothed, you're also going down to a place of numbness. And that would be a dorsal vagal parasympathetic numbness, right? Or if you've binged and then purged, the purging does feel like it's supporting your vagal tone. For a few moments, everything gets quiet. And that purging, actually using the throat to purge, does adjust your vagal tone temporarily. But it's the kind of tool that you have become dependent upon. And it's so temporary that it's not actually producing what we want in terms of increased vagal tone, and it's producing health risks, like for your esophagus and the enamel on your teeth. Maybe that isn't your particular pathway. Maybe it's just stress eating all throughout the day. You're just reaching for things to soothe or to occupy your mouth or to keep swallowing. And did you know that swallowing is one of the things that your vagus nerve is governing? So much goes on with the throat. There's many things I could speak about in this regard. But today what I want to do is cover a few concepts of how you can raise your vagal tone, and you can do it with it being socially graceful. It does not need to be something that you're kind of standing out in the crowd behaving strangely to do it. That being said, there are some practices that I'll also teach you that you can do at home, and they can be a little bit more socially awkward if you were to do it in public. Like all of a sudden, if you just start singing at a social gathering, because singing supports your vagal tone, and you just think, oh, now's the time, Sahana Vavatu, and the room turns and looks at you, you might feel very exposed. So there are some practices that we'll do in this series that'll be for your home practice. But let's say you're out and about and you can feel yourself getting a little bit anxious, and your vagus nerve is giving you the signal from the gut up to the brain that you ought to do one of your like self remedies, which becomes self-sabotaging. You get anxious in the gut, it's a message up to the brain, and your reflexes may be turning on. What are you going to do? One thing you can do is actually practice swallowing. So a way to get that going is to take your tongue and run it along the teeth inside your lips. We go the upper and then the lower. It's going to generate saliva, and then we're going to swallow. And we're going to do this about 5 times right now, and then see how that feels. If you'll just take the tongue, and if you're out and about, you might, I don't know, go to the restroom to do it, or take a little break in the park and do it. But just see if you can do it with me right here, right now. So starting with whatever side of the mouth you want to begin on. And then swallow. And then do it again. You don't have to rush them. You're not in a hurry, but do it again when you're ready to. And relax after each swallow. We're going to do it 3 times more. No particular hurry. You just do the next one when you're ready to. And then for a moment, we'll just go to the next practice. You can close your eyes, and without turning your head, on the inhale, shift your gaze to your left as far as it can comfortably go. Exhale your gaze back to center. Keeping your head centered, inhale, shift your gaze as far to the right as you can comfortably go. And exhale back to center. We're going to do this 5 times also. So inhale, go left. And exhale, come to center. You might be wondering how you're going to do this in a board meeting. You're going to be discreet about it. So go to your right as you inhale. And exhale back to center. Perhaps you could consider doing it before you go to the board meeting or the school meeting. So inhale, go to your left. Exhale to center. Allow things to slow down. And again, inhale, go to your right. Maybe you're in a noisy restaurant and you just tell your friends you're going to meditate for a few moments. And exhale back to center. And see if you might have a sense that you've come back to center, like there's a little bit more you at the center of you and a little bit less you scattered about. Okay, and if that was even a tiny bit effective, I want you to stay tuned in because there's more to come in this series. This is about vagal tone, and the next several practices will fill up your library so that you'll have a little toolkit to go with you throughout the day. Some will be for out and about, and some will be just for at home. Like these 2 here, I have done them myself on an airplane, waiting for the bus. Sometimes I'm at a board meeting. I'm on the board for the Yoga Alliance, and we have board meetings, and nobody seems to particularly care if I act a little bit strangely there. Of course, it's a yoga board meeting. But you may find that you're doing it, waiting for the concert to begin, or You just find yourself at a restaurant and the menu is overwhelming you. And you just think, oh my God, what am I going to order? How am I going to do this? Too many things and too many food things. And you feel activated and then come into, I just need a moment here. And you can hold up your menu in front of your face if you need to and do your practices, or just start telling your friends, hey, I got to increase my vagal tone. And I'm going to do that right now. You want to join me? Okay, I hope to see you next time. Thank you. But women tell me every day that when they find themselves binging on sugar, that they deeply regret it afterwards, and that it disrupts their sleep, and they have a terrible experience of themselves the next morning. They feel unmotivated to get out of bed, and they have like a sugar hangover. One reason that we move towards sugar is that we feel like we're lacking energy, like we might feel extremely fatigued. You might have brain fog, and maybe you tell yourself that you can't rest during the day. Here is a breathing practice that you could do to shift from that brain fog and that utter fatigue to a place of being more centered or grounded in yourself. For this practice, we're going to inhale through the nose slowly and fill up the torso as completely as possible. Then we're going to exhale out like a tiny little straw between the lips, like a cocktail straw, letting the exhale go and go and go until there's a release at the end. To get ready for that breath, if you're already feeling a little bit high strung or a little bit ungrounded or really fatigued, it can help to do a couple of blowing off breath cycles first. We'll do 5 short bursts of exhale out through the mouth, 1 long exhale, and then we'll inhale, we'll hold that for a moment, and then we'll exhale and relax. And that'll get us ready for the next breath practice. Okay, so like this. Breathe in through your nose. And then hold. And release. That's made a slight shift in you biochemically. Let's see if we can now do the breath practice I was speaking of, where we're going to inhale as completely as we can through the nose. The reason to do that blowing off practice first is that you might have found that if you started without that, getting a deep breath in through the nose feels like you only have this much left to breathe into, like you're just treading water. So we wanted to clear out the lungs first. And now we're going to inhale fully from the bottom of the lungs up to the top, like this. And then making a tiny straw of the lips. And then you totally relax. Let the next inhale come like a breeze coming into an open window. Let's just try that technique one more time. Breathe in through your nose. As full an inhale as you can have. Hold for a moment and then breathe out like a little straw. And then again, you totally relax. So the next breath comes to you. And see if you might feel like a tiny bit more connected to yourself, or a little bit more grounded, and maybe a little bit less fatigued, though you might actually feel aware of how tired you deeply are. And in that case, make a compassionate note of that to yourself. And if you have the opportunity for a 5-minute rest, you could sit in quiet for a few minutes right now and just allow your mind to come back down out of the fog and into some clarity. As always, more to come, so stay tuned in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.